Welcome everyone to the Lake Scugog Environmental Management Consultation Open House. We'd just like to talk to you today about Lake Scugog and our Lake Scugog Management Plan that we've been doing for Lake Scugog for the past 20 years. We've been monitoring the lake and its health, water quality, and we're going to implement another lake management plan, and we'd love your input. The goals of today's meeting is to provide an update on the recommendations out of the Lake Scugog Environmental Management Plan that was done in 2010. We'd also like to receive feedback on potential for LSEMP number 2, which will be done in 2025. We have also met with other stakeholders in the last month to determine what they value about Lake Scugog and what they'd like to see us do in LSEMP number 2. Here's a list of stakeholders that we have already spoken with. Here's a map of Lake Scugog and its watershed. Watershed is an area of which, wherever water falls, it'll drain to the lake. As you can see, within Lake Scugog's watershed, it is full of agricultural land, as well as developed land, which you can see as red. In green, you can see it has wetlands. Lake Scugog is the largest lake within Kawartha Conservation's watershed. Lake Scugog is also an artificial lake that was flooded in 1838 with the construction of the dam that you see in Lindsay. The headwaters of Lake Scugog come from the Oak Ridges moraine. So, oddly enough, the water actually flows from the south to the north, where most people think, in general, that water flows south. But because of the moraine, the water actually flows north. And if you weren't aware that Port Perry residents, their drinking water doesn't actually come from Lake Scugog. However, Lindsay residents does through the Scugog River. So as you can see here, we've had a number of Kawartha Conservation staff work on LSEMP. It's been an ongoing project for the last 20 years, and we've collected a lot of data to inform us on the overall health of Lake Scugog, as well as water quality information, fisheries, and aquatic plants. Here are some examples of items that were brought forward in the last lake management plan for Lake Scugog. Kawartha Conservation is working with a partnership with the Township of Scugog and the region of Durham for a 5-year project. Several other federal, provincial, and community environmental organizations also provided input on the Lake Scugog Environmental Management Plan. The preliminary work began in 2002, and the water sampling started in 2004. The objective of LSEMP is to ensure a long-term sustainability of Lake Scugog through preventing further lake eutrophication through the decrease of phosphorus and nitrogen, improving water quality in the lake and its tributaries, improving the aesthetic value of the lake, and maintaining the health of the aquatic and terrestrial ecosystems within the lake. The priorities of the task were to identify sources and measure the amounts of phosphorus and nitrogen entering and leaving Lake Scugog. We'd also like to evaluate the conditions of Lake Scugog and its ecosystems. Out of the plan, there were recommendations that were created in order to undertake actions towards the restoration of the lake's environmental health. Lake Scugog originally was studied by MOE and M&R in the 1970s. Not a lot was done after that until 2004 when Kawartha Conservation started to do monitoring on Lake Scugog. Then in 2010, we took it upon ourselves to do the Environmental Management Plan, and have been monitoring since. So we have a stretch of 20 years of data, and it's coming up on the actual anniversary of the 20-year anniversary of our monitoring. So within Lake Scugog Environmental Management Plan, we were looking at watershed characterization. So information like the history of Lake Scugog was summarized, as well as land use and land use cover around the lake, soils and geology, the hydrology, so overall water budget of the lake and surrounding tributaries, as well as the nutrient levels in the lake and and streams. We also did some structural ecology work as well as socioeconomical characteristics. We then developed this information and developed recommendations, working with the LSEMP steering committee as well as public open houses to determine recommendations that would better overall improve Lake Scugog. We're looking at also areas that potentially need more work and other areas consider protecting. After that, we were looking at ways to influence recommendations by creating project based on the recommendations, getting support to do the work, as well as collaborating with others to get the work done to overall improve the lake based on these recommendations. So it was determined that there was 76 recommendations that came out of the Lake Scugog Environmental Management Plan. The implementations of these recommendations started in 2010 and have been ongoing until present day. There's been 24% of them completed, 5% are still in progress, and 58% are ongoing. 13% of them were not initiated because eventually we determined that either they were not feasible or they weren't needed. So examples of recommendations that are ongoing are the continued education of the public, recommendations from original LSEMP, organizing brochures, publications in local newspapers, as well as magazines. But recently we've been using social media campaigns to reach a larger audience, as well as printed materials that are available, as well as fact sheets, reporting materials to download off our website. Other recommendations that are in process are initiating water quality monitoring for a wide range of pollutants at each stormwater outlet for at least 2 wet weather events and 1 dry weather event per year. This helps identify pollutants and concentrations for local urban runoff. What we've done is initiated an investigative upstream monitoring program with priority on watercourse and stream water outlets. We've undertaken a study to look at the sediment within Lake Scugog to better understand the historical sedimentation rates and phosphorus and metal loading within the sediment of Lake Scugog. One of the recommendations that we wanted to follow through with is looking at the development of Lake Scugog's shoreline, as 41% of Lake Scugog's shoreline is currently developed. There is a need to further study this shoreline development to make sure that future development is feasible and acceptable. However, based on the model used or has been used in the past for these types of studies, it doesn't best suit Lake Scugog at the moment. So we had some amazing programs come out of LSEMP. One of them being the Blue Canoe program, where we had students go around in a canoe to people's docks to speak to them about Lake Scugog and give them some education on the lake. We also had a Scugog Water Fund, which helped fund projects. The Lake Scugog Steering Committee, which looked at the best interests of Lake Scugog and where to put money. Connecting Scugog residents and the environment. Scugog connections and new environmental actions. Also looked at an assessment of potential walleye spawning habitat within certain tributaries of Lake Scugog and the Scugog River. There was a Durham watershed planning project that came out of it that identified key natural heritage features. The region of Durham had an investigated upstream monitoring report card for Cockers Creek and Williams Creek. And the overall Kawartha Conservation had a watershed report card, which in 2023 that evaluated the overall health of Lake Scugog. We also had a Port Perry stormwater management plan, which helped identify excess nutrients and various things going into Lake Scugog. So as of right now, we have current monitoring going on. It's been ongoing since 2004. We have 8 lake sampling sites where we take a boat out and take water samples at each of these sites. We have 8 stream sites where we take water samples as well as water chemistry readings. We have 2 well sites where we're testing groundwater, and we also have 2 water level sites to monitor water levels. So the water courses that we monitor are Layton River, Nonquan River, Cockers Creek, Williams Creek, Osler Marsh Outlet, East Cross Creek, an unnamed creek, as well as Blackstock Creek. So as you can see on the slide, we have 2 staff, and they're taking water samples on the lake and in the creeks. For lake monitoring, we're looking at surface water sampling for nutrients, nitrogen and phosphorus, chloride, and suspended solids. Also taking a look at a vertical lake profile, which gives us temperature, dissolved oxygen, conductivity, pH, and DO percentage. This gives us a baseline for what water chemistry is like throughout each column of, half meter increments on the top to the bottom. In the stream, we have field parameters. We do surface water sampling for nutrients, phosphorus, chloride, and suspended solids as well. Then we also have a flow logger that determines the flow, and this is important for when we have major rain events, and we can get the overall discharge measurements from these events. Here are 4 questions that we would love to get your input on. Your comments will be used as part of the recharacterization of Lake Scugog and developing new set of recommendations. If you could please email your responses at tlang@kawarthaconservation.com, or please leave your comments within the chat window, and we will collect them at the end of the presentation. We'll also leave these questions up at the end of the presentation for a brief period of time, so you have enough time to write them down and answer fully. We'd also like, with these questions, if you wouldn't mind taking the survey. All you have to do is put your phone camera on, and it'll highlight this QR code, and it'll bring up a link to the survey. Or take a photo of the QR code, and your phone will allow you to open up the photo and click on a link that comes up and open up and take the survey later. This survey provides us with more valuable information that we can include as input for the new recommendations for the new LSEMP plan. So next steps. So right now we're in the public engagement part of the study. And we're going to compile the results through June to August of 2024 to start to develop a proposal for the next LSEMP plan. We're looking to start work on the LSEMP plan sometime in 2025. Thank you very much for staying around till the end, and to thank everybody, we'd like to offer 5 free conservation area parking passes for a random draw. So anyone that's still on, please send comments and answers to tlang@kawarthaconservation.com with the subject line Lake Livestream to be entered into the draw. Thank you very much.